I'd love to ask you if you could snap your fingers and fix one major operational bottleneck that's just been bugging you, even beyond just Great Hills, just within hospitality in general, something that's been bugging you for years, what would it be?
A really good question. I may have a couple of them, but I think I would go back to the idea that the leaders seem to be further away from the human interaction is really what makes the difference. And it's really hard to teach new generations of people who grow up where their phone is their friend and the members aren't necessarily their friend. It's really interesting to watch that, and we're fighting it as a culture.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Shift Change podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Moore. And today I'm joined by Chip Gist of Great Hills Country Club in Austin, Texas. Chip, thank you so much for being here.
Kelly, it is my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So first I want to start out with how you found your way into club and hospitality operations.
Good question. I am a PGA golf professional by trade.
Oh, nice.
So I started out as many young professionals do in as a golf pro, checking people in at a country club and learn to give lessons, and really the 360 of the golf experience. That was my first track. So that was my introduction to hospitality, and it was at a country club first, and then my first large operation was at the Barton Creek Country Club and Resort here in Austin. And that's where I really began to learn about hospitality.
Fantastic. So for people who may not know Great Hills, give us a sense of the operation today. What all falls under your responsibility? What does a normal week or, day-to-day look like for you?
Yeah, so Great Hills Country Club is one of only 3 member-owned private country clubs in Austin, which makes it very unique. Situated right near the Domain and Arboretum, just north of downtown. It's an amazing location, and we have 625 members, 3 different categories. Offer a 18-hole golf course, 8 tennis courts, swimming pool. Very active club, very active. I'm going to call it a community club, because all the members, being their owners of the club, they're here a lot. Hills was built in 1973, so it's just over 50 years old. And when you have a 50-year-old club like this, that's a great opportunity to have a varying demographic. We have people who were here on day one, Kelly, and so that's fun. And then we have lots of young families and everybody in between. So they all use the club a little bit differently, but at the end of the day, this is their home away from home.
Love that. Having membership that spans the demographic that way, how does that create complexities within the club, running the club, so that you're kind of catering to all of the different demographics and the
Right.
needs that they have?
Yeah, I think we've all heard the idea that you can't be all things to all people all the time and do a good job.
Yeah.
And so good question about complexity, because our members use the club in different ways, and it's evolving. 10 years ago, this was pretty much strictly a golf club with half the membership that we have now. And it has evolved as Austin, Texas has evolved.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we have, for example, some people who are wanting to use the club, and they may not appreciate young children running in the clubhouse, or why are we spending so much time with face painters, right? And so we have to program for everyone in their own time, in their own way. And then there's some things where there's 2 or 3 events a year where everybody comes together, all the demographics, but that can't be really every day. So we really have to keep all the demographics in mind and program specifically to those target audiences. And we do a really good job of that.
That's amazing. What part of the operation demands the most of your attention?
Well, we'll get into this probably in a little while, but we're going through a renovation right now. The golf course is closed. The dining room is closed. We're building a new dining room and a new grab and go cafe. So that takes about 50% of my time, maybe 60, just the construction management and planning. So the other 40 to 50% is on programming and behind the scenes operating of it.
Yeah. Yeah, let's go ahead and dig into the transformation that y'all are going through right now. I know it's a it's a really complex and big operation that's going on across many of the different facets and activities that the club offers. As you're balancing kind of the day-to-day member experience through that, and also in these upgrades that will be really, really valuable to your membership long term. How are you managing the tension where operationally the business still has to feel seamless to the member, but they're still very aware of what's going on around them?
Yeah, so we call that open through construction. And it's inconvenient to say the least. For example, the parking lot is taken up about 30% of our parking lot is a construction trailer site and home base for a sand pile all day long and equipment. And so any day there's tractors running, trying not to hit members' cars, and we have to manage that. And we have to manage people in the dining room. For example, this morning they are finishing up a painting process in the dining room, and on the other side of that wall, we're having breakfast. But it's loud and it's you can smell it, and so we have to manage that. And we just told them in advance. I mean, like, hey, tomorrow this is what you can
Yeah.
expect.
Yeah.
And as long as what we found out is as long as we manage the expectation of what today is going to bring, then people can deal with that and they're okay with that. They
Yeah.
see it they see it as progress, but we have to remind them that it's progress and just not inconvenience.
Yeah.
That's I say that really easily, but it's not easy.
Yeah.
Every week we have there are any number of ways that we communicate to our members about what's happening and what status is the progress. And things like every Monday, we send out a communication to all our members and we do videos. Last week, we flew the drone through the new dining room and through the cafe, and it was a really fun process. But people get information that way. I host a coffee on Thursday mornings where people can just come and ask me the questions.
That's great.
Yesterday we had a dozen people. Sometimes I have two, sometimes I have 20, anywhere in between those two. But it's another way to be able to communicate to the members. We also will text sometimes. We'll do a hard hat happy hour, which is a party that says we're just using that opportunity for come to the club and we'll keep telling you what's happening. And we're giving tours of the golf course while it's closed at that time as well. So that's how we manage. To answer your question, that's how we manage it, is we communicate the heck out of it.
What have you learned about your members through this process and keeping them bought in while visibly there's this disruption?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. What I've learned is that they are unbelievably committed to the health of this club.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, I did a budget back in October for a year being closed, basically. And that's a scary proposition because it's tough to make any revenue that way. So the only saving grace was if the members would still come to the club, even if they weren't going to play golf, and they were going to come to have dinner or lunch or support our programming. That's really the only way we can generate revenue right now. And you know what, Kelly, they in droves. And so that means they're committed to the health of their club. And it also means they're committed to each other because they come, I guess I would say it's a standalone entity in that they're not eating just because they came to play golf. They're coming to see their friends. And this
Yeah.
is where they see their friends. So they're coming. And that's what
Yeah.
I learned about our members.
I'd love to talk a little bit about the business case for this, huge transformation. So when a club like Great Hills has to make a major investment like this, what has to be true both operationally and financially for leadership and for your members to support it?
Yeah. So the this is broader than the club itself. This has to do with the market. As I mentioned before, this is one of three member-owned clubs in the Austin market. The real estate in Austin, Texas is driving all of this. Because of our location, for example, the homes around in this area, let's just call it in this area, they are selling anywhere from 550 to $700 a square foot. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, they're probably closer to 250 to $300. Same house, same place, right? So what that means is people are coming to Austin, Texas with a certain expectation. They find their home. They already have their job, most likely. Find their home. They find their schools, and the next thing they're looking for is their country club. Austin Country Club is right down the road by about 10 miles on Highway 360, and it has a waiting list of some 10 years.
Wow.
Creek is also in that category, and they've got a 4-year waiting list. I came from a renovation at what was Lost Creek Country Club. We rebranded it to Westlake Country Club. The initiation fee from $5,000 to $90,000 in a 3-year period of time because the demand was there for another premium product. Parallel to that, this club is just if Westlake's on the south side, we're on the north side. And there's demand for this club, but it had to be relevant in the market. So as a 50-year-old club, it needed to be upgraded. The golf course needed the improvement. It needed a new irrigation system. It needed the new hybrid Bermuda turfs that we're putting in. There's demand for it, but it had to be there. The product had to be there. So it adjusts the product to meet the demand of the general marketplace.
How did you frame the value internally to the team prior to the renovation starting?
Well, for this project, Great Hills Country Club, it was already started when I got here. So
Okay.
yeah, so I got here in June of last year, and they had already made the commitment to do the work. So they had done that assessment, and it was obvious that some other clubs had been doing the same thing. So they were on board with that, and they committed to doing that. And because I had led this type of change in the market already, they were interested in my leading the change here.
What are some of the decisions that have to be made when members want improvement? Like you said, like it had to happen. Surely the members wanted the improvement, but they also want the consistency that they're used to, and they want the service that they're used to, and they want the amenities that they're used to. How do you manage that, manage their expectations, and also how do you prioritize things around that?
Well, just to reiterate what you just said, it's all about expectations. They want the improvement, but what we have to do as operators and leaders is we have to say, "Look, if we're going to do this, let's do this the right way." And so we need to close the golf course. We don't, if you decide to have half the golf course open and redo it and then do another half of the golf course, while that may be more convenient for you because you'll have a golf course some to play during the time, it's going to make it longer and it's going to make it more expensive. And it's not going to be a very good experience while you're doing that because it's going to be loud and there's going to be tractors driving around and there's parking lot is, as we discussed earlier. And so you have to be the one to sort of assure them that if we're going in full guns blazing and get this done as soon as we can and as complete as we can. And that's it would be easy to say, y'all make the decision and we'll do half of it. We didn't do that here, and I don't recommend anybody else do it either.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's good to know that, you had to make. I mean, that's a hard decision to make.
It's a hard decision to
And
make for sure.
yeah, and then you make the decision and it sounds like you are glad you did. So that's
Yeah,
great.
and then Kelly, at the same time, for this golf specific thing that we're talking about. Oh, okay, I'm a member that doesn't have a golf course, and yet I'm still going to pay dues behind the scene. That's not changing. We're not suspending dues while the golf course is closed, and the club has to stay afloat, right? So what we do is we turn into a golf concierge service for our members. We call around and make tee times for them at other clubs. We leverage our relationships with other clubs and other courses. We take trips. My golf pro is taking a group down to the Texas coast on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
Wow.
Yeah, he's taking them out to Lajitas out in West Texas in a couple of weeks, and then there's another trip in June as well. And so you kind of keep them moving, right? And you kind of
Yeah.
facilitate that, and then you say, "Hey, look, if you need help somewhere else, just let me know, and we'll help you."
Okay, so they're still getting value.
They're
They're
still
just
getting
not
value.
playing it at their home club. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we also made a deal with our construction company and said, "Can we leave our putting green open, which is right next to the clubhouse? Can we leave that open as long as possible?" So today we closed full on December 1st, Kelly, and then our putting green is still open. So we've done night putting. We'll still give lessons for chipping and putting out there. We make that a community place for them to still feel like they've got some value.
That's fantastic. I'd love to talk a little bit more now about kind of back of house. And from the outside, people see the experience, but behind the scenes, there's lots going on. It's a very different story.
We are dealing with the the one thing that's the toughest thing is change, right? This is all out of the normal routine. There's not as many people in the parking lot. There's not as many people at the club every day. I mean, there's people, but there's not as many people. We are not as busy as we normally are. So that means different things to different departments, and we have to make sure that we operate that way. For example, our golf course maintenance team, they're supporting the construction team to a degree, and they're also doing some projects that they normally don't have time to do. We kept them all intact, every single one of them, even though we don't have any golf, because they're really hard to replace.
Mm.
They're very specific about what they do. For most of them, they're operators of equipment, they're irrigation techs, etc. And so it's hard to replace those kind of people. So we wanted to make sure that we just sort of budgeted to keep all of them. In food and beverage, we are operating at about 60%, even though we're closed as a golf. So that makes for some tough decisions. We flex more than we ever have. For example, if there's if we've got 3 servers that are scheduled to work for lunch, and man, today for some reason there's just not many people coming, we're pretty aggressive about cutting a shift because we need to do that. We also take into consideration, not unlike with the golf course maintenance, for our full-time employees that are our highest performers, we're going to do every single thing that we can to hold on to them. And if we have to sustain them, subsidize them mainly a little bit because their gratuities aren't what they normally are, but we're looking for ways to do that. So that is a really important thing that we do, and it's unlike something that we normally do.
Hey, where is it hardest to recruit, train, or even retain your workforce? Where do you see those challenges?
Well, I'm going to go back to this market in Austin, Texas, which
Mhm.
we have all done really well by, but it also brings its own challenges because there's so many more restaurants in Austin, Texas. So that particular food and beverage labor is really hard to find because they can make a ton of cash at at downtown. Now, what we sell is, hey, this isn't you don't have to be here till 2 in the morning to earn what you're doing there, and we offer better benefits than most restaurants anywhere. So
Mhm.
it's a nice lifestyle. They build relationships with members, etc. So it's a nice work environment. It provides good benefits and good competitive wages as well.
Yeah.
Maybe not the top, but we found that money's not always the biggest motivator for.
When it comes to the actual like systems that y'all use to run the business,
Mhm.
whether that's from a leadership perspective, kind of where you sit and it's reporting and analytics and, that kind of function, or is it the actual operations like your food and beverage team using certain technology, your golf team using certain technology for communication, for member communication, things like that.
Yeah.
What are some of the tools that y'all use to run the business? And how much of the business is still more manual as opposed to leveraging technology?
Yeah. So it's a great question. In the country club industry, and I'm sure others, but because we have so many different types of departments, from like food and beverage and golf. Those are the biggest. Those are the two biggest departments we have, right? So we have a point of sale system who is also our back of the house system. So it's all tied together. I can go and look up all of my P&L. Is I can look at it as a club, and then I can go and look at it department by department and how it all rolls up to the general P&L. There's the balance sheet. All of it is in one package. And this technology is, I'm going to say, 20 years new, Kelly,
Mm-hmm.
to our business because it was all segmented before.
Yeah.
And now it's not. It's all combined. And we use probably one of the bigger ones in the complex. I came from Club Corp, which is now called Invited. I was there for 17 years, and that's the largest owner operator of country clubs in the world. So their systems are humongous. The individual clubs aren't necessarily operating on their own system. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yep.
Here at Great Hills, we are a completely standalone club. We have no affiliation other than our members own the club. But there's still products that will run our entire program with one system.
Yeah.
And it works pretty darn good. We can only not only about the financial side of it, but the communication side of it as well.
Yeah.
So we're using that, and the information is this system, for example, we're still learning how to use it. I mean, it's it's adding bells and whistles and features all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as we're out there trying to figure it out and making it work for us instead of just fitting into it, then it works really well. And
Yeah.
I would say, to people in the hospitality business, we're so used to serving others that in this scenario, we're the customer. And so we have to be we have to understand that stance, paying for this system, obviously. So it needs to do what we want it to do. And I'll give you a quick
Right.
example. In our financials, there wasn't a prior year column. There was a budget column, actuals column, but we want the prior year as well. Well, it just wasn't something that automatically showed up, right? And so we got in, and it's kind of like, hey, well, yeah, that upgrade will be X amount of dollars. I'm like, no, you can't do that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not, it'll take you 5 seconds to add that. I'm sure that the information's already there. So that's just an example of we have to be turned out to be the customer in that situation because the technology will do whatever, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there's so much technology out there now that we just have to use it for our good and not just it tell us what to do.
Yeah. Do you feel like there are any processes right now? So when there's a missing feature or a missing function that you need within your systems, does the team then rely on, you know, spreadsheets or paper or some other manual process that could save you time or money if it was in that system?
I don't think so. We use the support team at the with the product, and we'll work with them to work out whatever we need to have.
Okay. So your team is able to use the systems to get what they need, and you don't see much of an issue with that.
I don't, but I
That's
also
great.
would say that I encourage our department heads to use those services and demand more of that product
Mhm.
and get what they want because
Yeah.
we are paying for that.
Yeah, for sure.
If we can think it, I'm pretty sure it can do it. It's smarter
Yeah.
than we are. And we're using other things like, we're all the time learning how to use AI as well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean that's helping us. Just today, as a matter of fact, I took a picture of a golf hole that's under construction. There is no grass out there, but it's routed just a little bit different. So I took a picture and then, I said, Chat GPT, put new turf in here. Tell me what this is going to look like with mowed turf in there. And it did. And so now I can just turn around and say, this is kind of what this hole is going to look like when it's done.
Isn't that great?
It is great. It is
Yeah.
absolutely. So if we're curious, we can use the technology and should use
Mhm.
technology instead of just I don't know, not everybody's curious like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really interesting. Different people are thinking about AI in so many different ways, and sometimes just the simplest tasks, um, where you can leverage AI to, you know, visualize something or to, just kind of bounce an idea or to create a communication. Like all of those easy things that save maybe 5 or 10% of your time is, that compiles and it creates really good value. I think that's
Yeah,
interesting.
in a position like I have, I deal with so many different topics in a day, from finance to construction to food and beverage inventory, paint, you name it. And my title is a general manager and chief operating officer. So what AI does for me is it gives me a barometer. I don't necessarily say 100% I'm following that, but it gives me a barometer of what I could be thinking about when I'm dealing with something, for example.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. I used it one time for I was looking at an area that was under construction, and I knew we were going to have to landscape it later to soften it all up. And again, I just took a picture. I said, landscape this area for me, and it does it. Or it might tell me, what are the three things I should be thinking about when I'm replacing my irrigation system, or building a new retention pond, or what kind of pumps are work best to pump water over 1,000 yards. I mean, it'll narrow the field down really quick, so it saves me time.
Have you thought about ways that AI can be implemented across the organization with the workforce or, different ways that your staff can be leveraging it?
Here's how I think about that. I think about that as a back of the house time saver. Makes us a
Mhm.
little smarter, more efficient, time saver. Because the more time that I can spend with my members face to face, that is always the most important for our member experience,
Mhm.
that we are with them. They want to know that I like my chances when they can see me, when I'm visible, when all my department heads are visible, because as you know, in this hospitality world, the higher up the ladder you go, the further you get from the customer, which is a fallacy. We shouldn't let that happen, because now we're taking value away from our members. And in this world, this is a dues driven deal. Like, member retention is the number one driver of this club. So if they have access to me and access to my leadership team, we're going to do better. But if we're always in some office or somewhere trying to figure something out or working a spreadsheet, the more time we're doing that, the less time we're with them, and we're hurting ourselves.
I want to talk a little bit more about member retention. What are some of your strategies right now, especially with the renovation going on? How are you focusing on that right now?
Yeah. So to continue what I was just saying about being with them, like
Mhm.
these member trips and programming is key to all of that. So we're still programming, even though I really don't have anything to program. It's just like, okay, well, let's just be together. However we can be together, let's be together. We do some of our committees. There's, let's call it 8 or 9 committees around the club with members that help us with, I don't know, the dining entertainment committee or the golf committee, the membership committee. Well, when there's not a lot of day-to-day topics to talk about, now we're having committee socials. So let's get out of that boardroom and maybe go take a walk, or let's have a Arnold Palmer on the veranda and get to know each other a little bit better. And there is no, you can't do that online. So there is no link for that. You have to be here. And you know what? Here they come. And so they get to know us a little better and each other. And pretty soon we kept the community together. And that's how you keep the retention together. You make sure that the community doesn't go away, whether it's here or somewhere
Yeah.
else.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that makes sense. We do love the feeling of community. So just as a human species, it's important. So whether that's, your workforce, your staff, or your members, having that sense of community is really, really valuable.
Hey, Kelly, I'll tell you a little anecdote, which is one of my favorites. And I don't have this in my office. I wish I could show it to you, but we sell these hats, all caps, in the golf shop, and on the front of it, it says "course closed. bar open. And we can't keep them in, number 1, which
Love
is
that.
fun, but that sort of is a great example of our mentality, right?
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah.
things still going on, and we're just gonna have fun through this whole renovation process.
Yeah. No, that's great. I'd love to ask you if you could snap your fingers and fix one major operational bottleneck that's just been bugging you, even beyond just Great Hills, just within hospitality in general, something that's been bugging you for years, what would it be?
A really good question. I may have a couple of them, but I think I would go back to the idea that the leaders seem to be further away from like human interaction is really what makes the difference. And it's really hard to teach new generations of people who grow up where their phone is their friend and the members aren't necessarily their friend. It's really interesting to watch that, and we're fighting it. It's a culture because this is a relationship. Is all I know is that I can relate to my members and they can relate to me. And so, if I would sort of go further and say that training time to train our employees and to mentor them and to help develop them is almost lost. Like it's almost completely gone. And I don't think that's just hospitality driven, but
Yeah.
it's certainly in the hospitality industry. It's like, okay, there you go and do it. It's not like that's not how it works. It's just not how it works because we're building relationships. And that's what differentiates a country club from the restaurant that's down the street is that we know your name and we know your kids' names and we know what you like to drink before you get here. And so that's being lost a little bit, and we're trying to protect the heck out of it here at Great Hills Country Club. I can tell you that.
Is there a way to quantify how missed face to face time actually shows up? Are there missed opportunities that you can quantify with that? Like not having that face to face time or not knowing your members or, not spending, face to face time with your employees to train them, to nurture them, to help them grow. What does that cost the business?
Yeah, so in the club business, we look at what's a member worth. There's a lot of things that go into that. They pay an initiation fee, so that's part of it. They pay annual dues, so that's part of it. And we know that most country club members in the world are their average tenure is 6.5 years. So add that dues to that. Then you know what their discretionary spend is. And so generally it's going to come up somewhere in the each member is worth a couple $100,000, right? So you look at somebody and go, a couple $100,000. Whoa, okay. So am I going to say hi to them today? Am I going to treat them well? They're paying. It's the greatest business model in the world that they're paying us dues before they even show up, and even if they don't show up, right? So when they're here, they're making a decision every time. Like, I felt great. That felt great today because I'm not going to compete necessarily with the best steakhouse in town.
Mm.
And this is not Augusta National golf course. It's never going to be. We don't have to have the U.S. Open here. The tennis courts are really good, but they're not Wimbledon. What I have to have is they have to feel really good every time because they have other options, right? So they have to feel good. And the things that make them feel good are recognition. That's what makes them feel good. And to a degree, the expertise of having the golf course set up properly and manicured properly and all of the programming that goes into that. Those are all expertise driven. And what we're finding is we're getting further and further away from that as an industry, not hopefully not here, but as an industry, we're getting further and further away from the human touch. For example, it is so I would tie this together. Technology is for the back of the house, and there is no substitute for human interaction and hospitality is in the front of the house. Does that make sense? Yeah. So
Do
that's, I
your
mean, yeah.
do your members is are any of them demanding a more digital experience?
We have, there's an app. There's a Great Hills app,
Mhm.
for example. If you're a member here, you can go on and you can make a room reservation. You can make a reservation in the dining room. You can make a tea time. We're going to text message you if we had a storm and the golf course is closed, or the tennis courts are going to be closed for the rest of the afternoon. So from that standpoint, I think we're relevant.
Oh, good.
I don't think they want necessarily more of that because we're keeping up with that. But they, yeah. So I think we're in good shape there,
Yeah.
and technology has made that really easy. It's not
Mhm.
Great Hill just leading the league in technology stack. That's not the case. We're all
Right.
doing. We're all doing that. It's so easy to get now. But we do need to be relevant to our members because what I was saying about different venue, different ways to communicate with them. Some like to text, man, every day, and some like the weekly newsletter, and some like to be face
Mhm.
to face, and some want me to send a smoke signal. All of it's correct. All of it's
Yeah.
okay. I can't just say, well, read the damn news. I can't say that.
Yeah.
Well, if you read the Monday news, I can't say that. That doesn't help. So I've got to
Right.
provide it in a lot of different ways, and we do. So I'm not I think our industry has done a really good job with that, but I would caution that it goes maybe a little too far and we rely on it because there's still, for example, if we want to fill up the member guests, or let's say we want to fill up the crawfish boil. Well, we can send an email out, but if it's not full, what are we doing? Are we going to pick up the phone and call Kelly Moore and say, Kelly, are you coming to the crawfish boil? No, I didn't even know about it. Okay, well, call all your friends and bring them. Well, now I just got
Yeah.
25 people to that. And there's generations who think that is the craziest thing they have ever heard. Or
That
just
is true.
when you see somebody on the golf course, hey, are y'all coming to the crawfish bowl? No. Well, yeah, I didn't know about it. So that kind of thing is part of the club as well.
Yeah, and it's crazy because there are so many ways to get information, but still, sometimes people don't see the information. It's wild.
It's wild. It's wild.
Okay, what is a decision that you've made over the last couple of years that really paid off, whether that's a technology decision, process, a vendor decision, whatever, that really paid off for you? And then is there one that you would take back?
Really good question. I'm not somebody bringing a bunch of credit to myself, but we did the last club I was at. We made the decision to rebrand the name of the club that had been the same name for 50 years,
Mhm.
and that was a tough decision. But we were making a $16 million renovation, and the club was going to be a totally different, it's totally different position in the market. So it seemed to me that it had to have a different name, or it was going to be perceived as the same, because people don't know if they don't see the renovation. If they don't see the new product, they don't know. And so we did that, and it paid off in spades. Like, it was the best marketing thing I've ever done in my entire life, and it was good. I'm really proud of it. Things that didn't go well, say that there are some cases where we didn't take enough time to plan something. And so in the construction world, there's something called the fat tail on projects. And the fat tail is when you get to the end, you're almost there and there's a lot of things you forgot. And so it adds cost and it adds time and it adds efficiency. So there are a couple of projects that I could have spent more time in the planning process and taken a little more time up front, and it would have saved time and money at the end. But I was too excited to get going.
Yeah.
Right? We didn't think of everything. I mean, I would say that's the toughest thing to do, and I've done it. I've done it a couple times, and it's bit me a couple times.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's pretty common. It's crazy. If you were going to advise another hospitality leader, somebody who's in a similar role as you, to, somebody trying to modernize without losing the soul of the experience for the member or the guest, what would you tell them?
Yeah, I would tell them to make your experience relevant to the expectations that your audience has. In other words, I know that the membership here at this club, I know because I book trips for them. I know where they're going. I know where they're eating when they're not here. I know where they're traveling when they're not here. And I got to kind of know what those experiences look like because they're comparing those experiences with this experience. So if it's too hard to make a tea time because we didn't answer the phone or our website was down, Well, then I got to do better than I got to get a better app. Like it either works or it doesn't work. And sometimes I have to drill down a little further. And sometimes they can only make a tea time for Kelly can only make a tea time for Kelly and one other.
Hmm.
She really has four people. It's really a foursome. So I got to dig further and make that happen. I got to I got to unclog that drain, so to speak. So I would say that your experience should be relative. And if technology is dragging that down, then we have the ability to go figure that out. But
Yeah.
they should. It should be relevant to your audience.
Yeah. Okay. Before I let you go, a quick lightning round. Just a few questions, whatever comes to your mind first. Technology and hospitality right now, helping or adding complexity?
Helping.
Most underrated role in a club operation?
Greeter trainer,
One tool or system your team could not live without?
texting,
And what would you be doing if you were not in hospitality?
project management.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here and for being so generous with your time. I really appreciate it. If our listeners want to connect with you or learn more about Great Hills Country Club, where should they go?
They can go to our website, which is greathillscountryclub.com, or they can go to chip at greathillscc.org, and that comes directly to me. And if that's too hard, chipgist@gmail, that'll get me too.
Well, Chip, thanks again. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, Kelly, thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course.